Did you know that every single banana you eat is, well, radioactive? Yeah, I know. That sounds incredibly scary, right? You might even be side-eyeing your fruit bowl right now, wondering if there's some hidden hazard just sitting there in your kitchen.
But before you go tossing out your favorite snack, we are going to dive into this explainer and unpack the shockingly true science behind why bananas contain radiation and why scientists actually use them as a running joke. Because look, when most people hear the word radioactive, we instantly picture nuclear disasters, toxic waste, or, glowing green stuff from comic books. But what if I told you one of the most common foods on Earth is radioactive, and chances are you've already eaten one today? Yes, technically speaking, every banana is radioactive. Okay, so let's meet the culprit behind this whole thing, a little isotope called potassium-40. As you probably know, bananas are absolutely packed with potassium. It's a natural element that's literally essential for life. Your muscles, your nerves, even your heartbeat completely depend on it just to function. But naturally occurring potassium is split up into a few different types. You've got about 93% potassium-39 and roughly 7% potassium-41. But right there, that tiny little 0.012% slice, that is potassium-40. It's an unstable isotope that just spontaneously decays over time. And when it does, it emits a microscopic burst of radioactive energy. And this isn't just some fun theory, it's easily measurable. In fact, if you look at a gamma spectrum from a massive cargo shipment of bananas, you'll see it clearly. When customs officers scan these huge cargo ships, their monitors actually pick up a specific radioactive signature. There's a distinct peak right at 1461.2 kilo electron volts, and that is the totally unique, verifiable fingerprint of potassium-40. Now, you might be thinking, hey, can I just hold a Geiger counter up to my breakfast to hear it click? Well, if you try it on a normal banana, you probably won't hear much. That's because the fleshy part you actually eat is about 75% water. But if you were to burn a banana peel all the way down to ash, you'd burn off all that water and organic matter. What's left is highly concentrated minerals, including the potassium. With that concentration, the radiation becomes way easier for a standard Geiger counter to pick up. So this brings up the obvious question. Are you actually in any danger from your food? If your fruit bowl is practically shooting off gamma rays, should you be worried? Not at all. The amount of radiation is incredibly small. Plus, your body has an amazing biological mechanism called homeostasis. Your body is incredibly smart. It keeps a really tight leash on your internal balance. It takes the exact amount of potassium it needs to keep your muscles firing, and it just quickly pees out the rest. Because of this strict regulation, the radioactive stuff never builds up in your system over your lifetime. It's gone in just a few hours. Just to put this into perspective, to actually bypass that system and get a lethal dose of radiation, you'd need to eat an absolutely massive amount of bananas. We're talking 50 million of them. And you'd have to eat all 50 million in a single sitting. So I think it's pretty safe to say your stomach would give out long before radiation poisoning ever became a serious concern. Because this exposure is so incredibly harmless, scientists actually have a lot of fun with it, creating something known as the banana equivalent dose. It's this informal, kind of humorous measurement used to compare tiny, abstract amounts of radiation to something we can all visualize: eating a single banana. One average banana exposes you to about 0.1 microsieverts, so that is our baseline of 1 BED. To compare, a standard dental X-ray hits you with about 50 BED. Or, if you take a flight across the country, you're absorbing roughly 400 BED just from the cosmic rays high up in the atmosphere. And when we scale this up, it really changes how you look at background radiation. Getting a medical CT scan, that's the equivalent of eating 100,000 bananas. Or consider living near the famous Black Beach in Guarapari, Brazil. The natural thorium and uranium in the soil there means your yearly background exposure is the same as eating 8 million bananas. Suddenly, the tiny dose from a single piece of fruit doesn't seem very intimidating, does it? But here is where things get really crazy, because it turns out you are radioactive too. Think about it. Since humans also need potassium to survive, every single person naturally emits a tiny amount of radiation all the time. An average adult contains around 140 grams of potassium. That actually makes you 280 times more radioactive than the banana you're eating. That's right, you are radioactive, and so is almost every living thing around you. Honestly, just sleeping next to someone exposes you to half a banana's worth of radiation overnight. Which naturally leads us to a genuinely published and totally hilarious scientific question. Could bananas power a starship? Because of this natural radioactivity, A recent paper explored whether we could harvest the radiation inside bananas for interstellar space travel. The physics here are actually mind-blowing. When potassium 40 decays, a tiny fraction of it undergoes positron emission. Basically, it produces positrons, which are a literal form of antimatter. And antimatter-based propulsion is considered the holy grail of space travel, because when matter and antimatter collide, they convert mass directly into energy with near-perfect efficiency. Now, pulling this off in reality would be ridiculously hard. To get enough antimatter to accelerate a 1,000-kilogram probe to Alpha Centauri at just 10% the speed of light, you would need practically a quintillion bananas. Obviously, the compression factor to fit that onto a ship is physically impossible, but the paper humorously points out that biologically sourced positrons from bananas could theoretically power a tiny microgram-scale nanorobot mission, so the math actually checks out. So yes, bananas are absolutely radioactive, but as we've seen throughout this explainer, the amount is so small it's completely harmless. In fact, because of that essential potassium, they are far more likely to improve your health than hurt it. Background radiation is just a normal, fascinating part of life. So the next time you grab one for a snack, just remember, you're not just having a snack. You are eating an antimatter-producing, naturally radioactive marvel. You're eating one of the most famous radioactive objects on Earth. Which kind of makes you wonder, what other incredible microscopic physics are happening entirely unseen right now in the rest of your kitchen pantry?